Good evening and welcome to our Hotchkiss community meeting. I really appreciate all of you being here and hearing about the information that we want to present to explain why we're looking at a possible, or not possible, a reconfiguration here in the North Fork. And when you look at the sign up here, it is truly a reconfiguration of a K-12 system that we'll be looking at. Tonight, we are streaming this video live. You can also get on our website and see last night's meeting, and you'll be able to see this meeting. So I'd like to thank Mr. Anthony Cooper, our Director of Technology. Yes. As we get started, my name is Karen Gibson. I'm the Superintendent of Delta County School District, and we have 4 of our school board members here tonight. We have Mr. Jan Tuen, who is our president. We have Mr. Dan Burke, our vice president. Miss Linda Ewing, our secretary. Beth Supas, and Ron Gurman, who wasn't able to be here tonight. He's watching live. And then tonight presenting, I'll be sharing about some of our slides. And we have Mr. Kurt Clay, our assistant superintendent, and Mr. Jim Farmer, director of human resource. And so let's see where I am in my meeting here. The next slide, we just want to set some norms as we get started, because this is a tender topic. We love our schools very much. We love our students, but sadly, some things are changing here in the North Fork. And there really is no perfect answer, but we know we need to do something, because doing nothing doesn't help our schools either. So tonight, we would like you to listen to our presentation, and then you will have an opportunity to speak later, and we always just want one speaker at a time. Assume well intentions, respect all views, be present and engaged, be open and investigative, solution focused, work off facts, not emotions, and we want to share our district lens with you. And we know we have community members in here, we have students, we have parents, we have board members, we have administrators, we have teachers. We all come to this with a different lens, and we see things differently, which is fine, but we've got to take a look at this information together. And of course, we want you to take care of your personal needs. As you guys know, the restrooms are over here, and then we ask that you turn your cell phones off. So thank you. Our agenda tonight, and we had agendas over there as you walk in, we're going to be sharing a presentation with you, which is going to last about 45 minutes with lots of information and facts about the school district. We're going to share some frequently asked questions. So we've had a survey up on our website for a little over a week that different people have been commenting on. And so we went through that and noticed some of the same things kept coming up and over, and we're going to share that information. And then we're going to give this crowd an opportunity to share your thoughts in 4 different areas, and it will be timed, and I'll explain that when we get there. Then at the very end, you will have an opportunity to log on and share your thoughts about tonight's meeting as well. So again, thank you for being here. As we get started, most of you know this history already, but it's always nice to walk back in time. So in 1950, Delta County School District became a school district. Our district name is Delta County School District 50J, because in 1950, we were joined together. And back then, we had multiple little schools and small high schools, small schools. Then in the 70s, they decided to go out for a bond to build a high school between Hotchkiss and Paonia, and a high school between Delta and Cedar Edge. That bond failed miserably, I was told. So they went back to the drawing board and they were told that if you want a bond to pass, you need to build a high school in each community. So they put that bond together, it passed, and we have our current high schools, which I still call the new high schools. The first graduating class, 1982. And ever since then, there's been discussion about why didn't they build 2 schools and what's going on. And so I became more aware of this. I've been a teacher in the school district for many years, and then administration, then went to the district office. And I've heard of this a lot, and I know over the last few years, it's come up now and then. We've had community meetings in all 4 of our different communities. We've had student meetings. One year we had John Condi with the Colorado Department of Education and a person from Case, Randy Black, come over, or Casby, come over and visit with us. And there wasn't a defining decision at that time. Enrollment was still hanging on for our students. And as you all know, we used to have 3 mines here up in the North Fork. 2 of those mines are gone. At that time, the mines were the largest employer in Delta County, and that really hit the economy. We still have 1 mine going. It's at a reduced capacity, but I was told there is coal there to last a few years, which is very positive. But it's changed the culture of our North Fork losing that, because each of those mining jobs affected other businesses and other jobs within Delta County as a whole. Last year, there was a small group of parents bring up the idea of, a reconfiguration of somehow. And so the board formed a North Fork task force. That committee spent 5 months looking at 9 different scenarios of possible options here for the North Fork. Then COVID hit and stopped that process. We had to get our procedures and protocols set for the year, and we're very happy we've been able to keep our kids in school. And as we start this new year, it was time to bring closure to that discussion. So leadership and the board, we worked together, and we're down looking at 2 options. But before I share those 2 options, this decision is really what is best for kids. We love our students, we love our staff, and so we're looking, how can we make opportunities and options the very best for our students as they look at going out in the world of work, going into the military, or going to college? How do we set our students up for success? They're currently successful. How do we continue that and wanting what's best for them? We're also looking at efficiency. We'll be looking and addressing the declining enrollment in this presentation and looking at fiscal responsibility. As the board, that's one of their main responsibilities, is to keep us fiscally in the black and going well. And they've done a great job. So what we're looking at tonight, we are strongly considering 2 options here in the North Fork. The first option is 1 high school right here at Hotchkiss High. And then we would have a middle school, a K-8 in Paonia, which is a change. So Paonia Elementary would go up to Paonia Junior Senior High building, and the middle school would stay there. So they become a K-8. Hotchkiss K-8 would stay like they are. And then we have a North Fork School of Integrated Studies. They are currently a K-6. They would stay at Paonia Elementary, half of it, and the other half, the older part of Paonia Elementary, we would close that building and possibly close and sell the Energy Tech building. The Energy Tech building is the old high school or middle school that's up there. The mines used to rent that facility from the school district for different trainings. The other option is 1 high school in Paonia, 1 middle school in Hotchkiss, a K-5 in Paonia, a K-5 in Hotchkiss, and a K-5 in the North Fork School of Integrated Studies. Both of these options have pros and cons to the scenarios. The Y factor, again, Increase opportunities and options for students. We've got to address our decreasing enrollment. If we don't do anything, some tough decisions are going to have to be made, and then maintain that fiscal responsibility. I want to tell you, this is hard. Change is hard, but it's kind of that good to great. How do we keep great things going on for our students and for our staff? And to grow and change is hard. And sometimes we have to get out of our comfort zone to look at that. And like I said, if there was an easy situation for this, it would have been made a long time ago. But I think these two scenarios both have value as we look at them. So tonight we're going to look at these three areas: opportunities and options. Again, what's best for students, what's best for staff. Enrollment, we'll show you the numbers of what's happened. And then fiscal responsibility, what's it do to our financial situation. So on these opportunities, if we have, one high school, what it does for students, it allows us to be more flexible in the scheduling and add additional classes. So I know the student happened to be in Paonia. She was a senior, needed an English class, and she needed a social studies class. Because they're one section school, they were offered at the same time. And she worked and worked, so she chose to take the English class in person, and she had to take the social studies class online. And it wasn't her first choice, and she probably didn't have the best opportunity in that, but that's what she had to do. And so when you have more students in your school, it allows scheduling because those classes are offered more than once. And so students can get in the classes that they need. They have more academic peers in class, so you can have that active engagement and those quality conversations. Students learn so much from each other, and there's so much value. And also, you're teaching 21st century skills: communication, collaboration, critical thinking. That goes on now, but with a few more students in class, it can be engaging. And then we would be looking at possibly extracurricular and co-curricular offerings. For staff, it would increase staff collaboration. Instead of maybe just one science teacher or one social studies teacher, you could have two or possibly three, and they could work together and collaborate and discuss things to enhance learning. Some teachers have many preps, and I want to tell you, outstanding teachers here at Hotchkiss High School, outstanding teachers at Paonia High School, really K-12 in the North Fork, outstanding, and some of them teach 2 or 3 classes at one time. They're very talented and it works, but is that the best way to do it? So we just want to look at that. So if classes are together and we can put students together, I'm going to show you an example here pretty soon, it might open up an opportunity for a new class, or we call a passion class. Maybe a teacher wants to do a drama class or a journalism class for a school newspaper. There's so many ideas that it would be up to the teachers and the school administration of what options and opportunities that were given. And then we hope to reduce travel. I don't know if you guys know this, but you have 2 staff members that only teach a half a day here, and then they go up and teach at Paonia. So regardless of which area it is, those teachers could stay in the same building. And sometimes they don't know if they really fit in. Do they fit in here or do they fit in there? And it makes it hard. They're doing a great job at it, but can we make that a little easier for those staff members? So this is just an example. So if we just have one high school, the separate high school, you might have 6 kids in one class at Hotchkiss, 6 kids in the same class in Paonia. If we could put them together, you'd have 12 kids. Then it opens up a new opportunity for a different type of class. And again, help you prepare you for the world of work military, or get you ready for college. How exciting. And then this just shows if we're in a separate high school by itself, those classes are usually offered just once. And if it doesn't fit in your schedule, you might miss out on a class, or maybe you really want to take an ag class, but because you have to have that English class or that science class at that time, you can't take that class. So if you are in a combined high school, we'll offer classes multiple times. And those are just some classes that we came up with. So high school opportunities and options, again, just work with more academic peers for engaging conversation, more electives and extracurricular activities. So like in your band, instead of having 15 kids in band, you might be able to have 25 and really create more beautiful music. Or you can have a play, put on a play here, show choir, so many things. And I know those things have been here in the past, but over the years, we've had to decline and reduce some of those things because we have class size ratios within the district. So at the secondary level, it's 1 to 20. So about 8, 9 years ago within Delta County, we had some schools saying, well, it costs more to educate a student in that school than this school. So as a district and with our school board at the time, we created class size guidelines, meaning 1 teacher for 20 kids at the secondary, at the elementary, 1 teacher for every 27 over 28 to 32 as a teacher and an aide. And that equalized it or added equity throughout Delta County School District, which really helped the situation. But since then, what has happened, our enrollment continues to ratchet down and decline, which causes us to make tough decisions. So by looking at one high school, it does help staff. We believe it can help students with options and opportunities. And then if we go to the model with the 2 K8s, where there's a K8 in Hotchkiss and a K8 in Peonia, the benefits to that one is it provides consistency in a K8 model where they're not having to change schools. So in Delta, it's a K5, and then they go to middle school, and then they go to high school. But we have found out when they go 5th grade to 6th grade, there's a learning dip for a little while, and it takes them a while to get back on track. When they go 9th grade to high school, there's a learning dip. So that consistency in a K8 is very positive. And then there's just fewer transitions because they're in that school for that K8. What it does for staff, it provides staff to be full-time in that building because you're using those teachers in a K8 model, where if it's just a middle school, they might be half and half. Half at the middle school, half at the elementary, or half at the high school. And then, again, reduce that travel for staff. The K5 model also has some very good items with it. They have more academic peers, more students in the same grade level, and then extracurricular offerings. You know, with the sports program, you have all the students together. Currently, our middle school football team is combined, and they've done very well. I got to tell you, the only complaint I've had since we did that, and that's going on 3 years now, was the color of their uniform. The kids love being together and they're very competitive, and so it's been very positive. For staff, again, increasing that collaboration. Mr. Farmer is going to share information about our enrollment, and thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gibson. Again, it's really an honor to be here. Thank you, class of '80 Bulldog. So really, I understand your feelings tonight and understand really what you're.
Mr. Farmer's name is over there on the board as a state wrestling champion. Yes. What year was that?
And it was on a paddle back in the office as well. So, but I'm going to go over some enrollment. So what we're looking at here, these are the North Fork High School enrollment projections for next year, or I'm sorry, throughout time. So on this, the black line is Paonia enrollment throughout the years, and I'll tell you where the years are. Right on the far left at 1979, 1980, Paonia was at 291. The red line is Hotchkiss throughout the years. In 1979, 1980, they were at 177. The green line is when you add them together. So that's the total number of high school students in the North Fork Valley. At that time, it was 468. We've kind of broken it down to some years. So if you go across 10 years later, that's where the overall enrollment went down to 391. You see that dip in Paonia enrollment, and that where Hotchkiss goes up. At that time, Crawford was going to Paonia High School, and then they started moving most of Crawford to Hotchkiss at that time. So that's where the big difference there is. As you go along, you can see that the overall enrollment of the number of high school students is declining. If you get up to right here, you're at this year, 2021, we're at 309 students total in the North Fork Valley of our high school students. We have projected that out using our current class sizes in all of the schools in the North Fork with our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade as they start moving through. And as you can see, projected for next year's 306, then 303, 304, up to 26, 27, 287 students is what we're predicting as far as the number of high school students here. This here just shows, breaks it down by community and by schools. So this is Hotchkiss K-8 and Hotchkiss High School enrollment, and these are the predictions for next year based on the enrollment that we have this year. So this year we have 28 kindergartners, and so next year we're predicting 28 first graders. So that's how that works, and this is including online students because we know it's a little different this year. As you go through our elementary, basically it goes from 18 up to 29 or 30, which is overall a one-section school for our elementary here. Used to be 2, sometimes 3 sections. If you go to the high school, in 9th grade, we're predicting 38 students, 50 students for 10th grade, 41 for 11th grade, and 45 for 12th grade. The total number of 9 through 12 students predicted for next year is 174 out of Hotchkiss. For Paonia Elementary and Paonia Junior Senior High, again, if you look at the elementary numbers, they're actually very similar to Hotchkiss. We're just anticipating around 30 for kindergarten. We don't know. But if you look at 1st through 5th, they range again from 18 up to around 30, 31. Again, a one-section school, so one teacher for most grades in that school. And they used to be 2 and 3. If you go down to the high school for Paonia, 8th grade going to 9th grade, 35 for 9th grade next year, 32 for 10th grade, 27 students for 11th grade, and 38 students for 12th grade. The total number of 9 through 12 students in Paonia is 132, is what we're anticipating for next year. These are our 2 alternative schools in the North Fork Montessori at Crawford, and the North Fork School of Integrated Studies, which is in Paonia. The Montessori school, they range from 12 to 20. They are a school of innovation. They're on a different kind of a salary schedule. They have budgeting that's different than the regular budget. They get basically 70% of what the schools get as far as their budget. So their budgeting and staffing is different. North Fork School of Integrated Studies, they range from 9 to 19. They are using the class size guidelines that Mrs. Gibson talked about. So they have combined classes. So in 5th and 6th, that would be one class of 22 and a combined of 3rd and 4th. So that's how they are funded within those class size guidelines. When you add up all the schools, all the kids in each grade, that's what this graph here shows for kindergarten up through 12th. The far right side is just the total number. So for example, 87 predicted for kindergarten, first 70. When you average all those out, the average grade level size is 77.5 for all the students in the North Fork for each grade level. Again, that puts our high school numbers at 306 students for next year, and then middle school, those 3 grades at 226. These are the current average class sizes by school. And so the way this is done is just we get into what we call Power School, which has a teacher schedule, and look at how many kids they have assigned in their class each period. And sometimes it's 2 or 3 classes in a period if they have some AP classes that are taught at the same time. But if you look at the high schools, Paonia High School has 11.9 students on average per class. Hotchkiss High School has 14.6. Cedar Ridge has 17.1. Delta High has 17.9. When you go up to the middle schools, Paonia Junior High, the junior high portion has 15.6 students per class, and it goes up to Delta Middle School with 22.3 students per class. With Cedar Ridge and Delta, with the pandemic, they went to what's called a block schedule, which kind of reduces how many classes they have offered. So their numbers, if it were traditional, would be closer to probably 20. So that'd be or 19 for Cedar Ridge and 20 for Delta Middle. Our elementary schools, they range from 19.3 for Paonia Elementary up to about 21 for our larger elementaries down in Delta. One thing with both elementary and our middle schools is it is easier to maintain those class sizes because their classes are pretty common. You know, you have a homeroom classroom in elementary, and in middle school they'll have their core classes and maybe 1 or 2 electives. When you get to high school, it is trickier because they have so many different directions that they need to go and have schedules. Example, when I was doing Paonia High Schools, for example, I noticed many classes had a teacher aide in there, and that's not included in that number because potentially that student didn't have another class to take at that time. Or in our smaller schools, there are lots of kids that have a study hall or two because they don't, you know, especially when they get, you know, toward the end of their career as juniors and seniors, they have a study hall because they don't really have a class that's offered right then.
All right, I'm going to talk about the financial part of it a little bit. Every year, we look at all of our schools across the district, and we calculate out how much money we're spending per kid in that school. Because as a district, one of the main jobs that we have is to be fiscally responsible. And so we take every school, we take all the costs in that school, calculate it out to find out what it is actually costing us within that school. So if you take that first line up there and look at Cedar Ridge High School, they're at salaries and benefits. We spend $1.597 million at Cedar Ridge on salaries. That's just in Cedar Ridge High School, okay? The principal's budget is we allow every school to have $180 per kid, and that goes toward books that they need to purchase. It goes for teachers' professional development. All of that budget that in this particular school, Mr. Rover would have control over for his staff, okay? The utilities, pretty self-explanatory, but what the utilities are in that building. And then maintenance costs. Maintenance costs are things like cleaning supplies, light bulbs, sprinkler heads, all of those kind of things. That is not salary. Those are supplies that are needed for the ongoing year for that particular school. It gives you a total cost, and at Cedar Ridge High School, that total cost is $1.7 million, $1.751 million, okay? And so then at Cedar Ridge High School, if you take the total enrollment, which is 275 students, it gives you a cost breakdown per student. And the cost at Cedar Ridge High School currently is $6,369 per student, okay? Just so you are aware, we receive at the very bottom of this $7,000 $890 per student that comes in as revenue. That's what we run our district on, is general fund dollars, which is $7,890 per student. Okay? If you look at Delta High School, they have 625 students, and their cost overall per student is $5,811. And that makes sense. And the reason that makes sense for us, there's an economy of scale, just a size factor that goes in. For example, when we take the salaries of our principals, every school has a principal. A principal salary up against 625 students, though, is very different than a principal salary up against 275, right? So we know that there is going to be a difference in those pieces. Where the issue lies, however, is when you get down into Hotchkiss High School and Paonia Junior Senior High School, you can see that we're running this high school at $8,500 per kid, and junior senior high in Paonia at $9,000. So we do not even receive enough revenue to really cover our cost in these schools. That lies the issue from a district and fiscal responsibility piece. When we talk about enrollment and we talk about finances, that's where they kind of collide and clash. So if we were to try to get that number down at Hotchkiss High School, for example, next year, that would be a minimum of 2 teachers that we would have to reduce in this staff, because that's ultimately where your savings is. As you can tell, our large dollar amount is in our salaries and benefits. So if you reduce 2 teachers out of this particular school, the options and opportunities for students just declined tremendously. You know, we're talking about programs losing now. Okay, do we lose science teachers? Do we do ag teachers? I mean, you're looking at programs. You're not looking at just people. So that's where that big issue lies, and this conflict is across the North Fork. So the overall savings with these reconfigurations are, the big one is you utilize your staff more efficiently. So you're going to save money because you can utilize them in different manner. There's also a savings, an instant savings in reducing one athletic program. For example, at Hotchkiss High School, right now in coaches' salaries, we pay $106,000 a year, just in coaches' salaries. And it's well worth it. We're not saying that's not worth it. But you would reduce that by half because you only have 1 sports program versus 2. True, you may have a C team, so we're going to have a little additional cost, but you're going to reduce it by almost $100,000 just in athletics. So the overall budgeted savings, if you took those $8,500 per kid and $9,000 and get them down to where Cedar Edge is, very similar type school, down to $6,300 per kid, you would be saving approximately $750,000 a year. And that's an ongoing savings every single year. Many people ask, okay, well, if we save $750,000, what happens with that money? That money is invested right back into teachers and resources options for kids across the district. And that is here as well as Cedar Edge or Delta or so on. There would be some potential savings from a rent or sale of a building in Paonia. That's a potential savings as well. And we do have some costs. As a district, we know there's some upfront costs. One of the costs that you'd be looking at is uniform costs. We know right away with rebranding, there would be a uniform cost as well as just signage, you know, the signs on the outside of the schools and those kind of things, updating those. So there is a cost for that. There would also be some renovation costs. So if we went to the K-8 model, for example, Paonia Elementary students would be going up to a K-8 at the high school. You can't just put elementary schools in a high school and say it's good. You have to make some adjustments, like little things you don't think about, but lowering the toilets, those kind of things. There's some renovation costs for those elementary students, okay? So, and then transportation is an ongoing cost. Transportation, depending on what the model is, if the model is a K-8 model, you're looking at least 1 more bus route. If the model is K-5s and a middle school and a high school in both communities, you're looking at a minimum of 4 more bus routes and potentially 5. Okay, so transportation is an issue. So we have budgeted, or we feel like to make this happen, you have some upfront costs. that upfront cost would be about $650,000 in year one. Okay, so we understand that there is going to be some costs in that first year. This is transportation, and it's just a map of the school district and then the county, or it's actually just the North Fork. Right in the middle of that blue star right there, that's Hotchkiss. If you go up to the right, that's where Paonia is. Every one of those different colors is a bus route, okay? So when we look at the transportation overall in the North Fork, down here at the bottom is Crawford, and down right where the cursor was, that's the bus route that goes out on Fruitland Mesa. So we have kids on the road all over in the North Fork, a lot of kids on the bus. One of the things that we want you to notice is how many bus routes we have to the west of Hotchkiss and how many we have to the east of Paonia. There is a difference. There is a difference. And the reason why we say that is because the kids at Redlands, that blue route way up there on the top left, our first bus rider gets on at 6:40 in the morning. Down at Fruitland Mesa, on that bus route, way down south of Crawford, that student also first gets on the bus at 6:40 in the morning. Now, if we add 15 to 20 minutes by transitioning buses and going to the other community, potentially you're adding another 40 minutes a day with that bus rider, which gets that kid on the bus potentially up to 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's a long time on the bus. We have to look at that as a district, and that's a huge factor as we look at all of these pieces. Okay, so transportation, even though there's other costs, it's also about students and making sure that we do what's best for them on the bus as well in that particular model, whichever model that is.
So we're trying to give lots of opportunity to hear the voices of our community members, of our staff members, and our students. Please talk to us. So last night we had a community meeting in Paonia, and tonight we're here in Hotchkiss. Tomorrow we're going to have an open house at Paonia Energy Tech. We'll be there from 8 to 12, just inviting people in. Come talk to us one-on-one. We'll share information. We're being very transparent. We want to visit with you and continue to share information. And then tomorrow afternoon from 1 to 4, we're going to be at Heritage Hall. We're not going to be in the schools. We don't want to disrupt the education process. But if you have questions, please come talk to us. We're happy and want to share with you and want to hear your voice as well. And then next week on Thursday, we're going to have a school board work session at Paonia Junior Senior High. And we'll have a school board work session Tuesday, February 23rd here at Hotchkiss High School. This is a big decision, lots of collaboration, communication, figuring out what's best for Delta County School District, what's best for our students, what's best for our staff. And I want to tell you that this school board cares about kids. They care about our teachers. They care about our communities. And they're putting in a lot of time trying to figure out what's best. And then on Thursday, the 25th of February, will be our school board meeting. We are planning to make a decision at that school board meeting and implement those changes and start in the fall with a new reconfiguration. Please go on to our website for a survey. Again, tonight, you're going to have an opportunity for just a special survey for this group, if you've been here, and we'll give you that information here in a little bit. So we went through the surveys that we received so far, and a lot of the same themes are coming up. So we put together some frequently asked questions that we want to read to you now, and it might get your mind thinking, what question do I want to ask? Because after we do the frequently asked questions, will be an opportunity for any of you to ask some questions. Mr. Farmer is going to read the first one.
With one high school, what will be the additional offerings for students? All of the offerings will be determined by the ability to schedule the courses and the teachers who are in that building. The district believes there will be all of the existing classes at the current two schools and more. For example, There will be extra music classes, social studies classes, science, PE, technology classes, and others compared to the offerings at each individual school. Additionally, students will be able to receive instruction with more of their academic peers.
Thank you. What are the reconfiguration impacts on the North Fork Montessori School at Crawford? These current configuration options do not impact the North Fork Montessori School at Crawford. Crawford will continue to be a K-6 Montessori school, and it's a school of innovation within our school district.
Is this reconfigured just to save money for the school district? The reconfiguration is due to providing options for students, decreased enrollment, and decreased school funding. Ultimately, the school district is looking to provide more quality options for students, and due to the enrollment, there is a disappropriate amount of money being spent in the North Fork high schools. In fact, the two high schools are costing more money to operate in the current configuration than we receive from the state. In order to be fiscally responsible to the taxpayers, as well as ensure our resources are distributed at an equitable rate, the district needs to address the overspending in these two schools. Therefore, to continue to have two high schools, we would have to reduce the amount of funding in each school, which means reducing staff and ultimately directing impact student options.
Are there differences in cost savings between the K-8 and the K-5 middle school options? There would be an annual savings of $749,000 for the high school, middle school, and K-5 model. There would be an annual savings of $873,000 for one high school and two K-8s. There will be some one-time costs with either of these models for remodeling and rebranding. The district has budgeted $650,000 for remodeling and rebranding to happen and feels this will make all of the changes needed for a successful transition.
Will teachers and staff still have their jobs? Yes. All staff will have a job in Delta County School District, and they will be in a position as close to their current position as possible. There is a potential that some staff will have to travel to a different school within the district.
How will staffing be selected for teaching position and coaching positions? Staffing is one of our top priorities because we want to be fair to everyone involved. The district administration, along with school administration, will discuss all of the options and place people in positions that are best for all of our students and schools.
In the K-5 model, what will happen to the unused portions of both the Hotchkiss and Paonia buildings? At a Hotchkiss K-5, the district would close off half of the building to save on energy costs. In Paonia, both Paonia Elementary K-5 and North Fork School of Integrated Studies K-5 would continue to share the Paonia Elementary School building as they have done the past 5 years. There is the potential to sell the Energy Tech building in Paonia or retain the building for possible use in the future.
What will happen to the North Fork School of Integrated Studies in the K-8 model? The North Fork School of Integrated Studies will remain in the current Paonia Elementary, and we call that building or that school NIFSIS. They'll stay in their current building, and the district will close off the unused portion of that building. At this time, the NIFSIS school will remain a K-6 program.
Why does high school or middle school need to be rebranded? Following the model of other schools that have merged or combined into one school, in order to allow students to feel welcome and part of a new culture, it is essential that the school becomes something different than before. Rebranding a school allows both the existing students in the school and the students moving to that school to feel as they are a part of something new and exciting. It also tears down old barriers that relate to old rivalries or other issues. The district understands there will be an additional cost, but feels the need to establish a positive culture is well worth that cost.
What is happening on the new gym floor and the painting? The gym floor or floors if there's a middle school and a high school, will be repainted if the schools are combined. My understanding is that the people that put in the floors, this happens. They're familiar with this. It's not the first time it would happen, so they're able to do that. Based on the colors that are chosen, that will determine how much of the floor has to be repainted and sanded.
What will happen to all the banners, trophies, and history in each high school? There will be a committee made of community members, students, and staff that will determine what will be the best way to honor all the amazing history in our schools. It is very important that we have a way to honor all the great things that have happened in our communities.
And who and how will name the mascot or rename the school and the mascot be determined? As soon as possible, a committee of students along with staff and community people from both schools will come up with rebranding decisions such as school name, mascot, colors, and at least 2 recommendations that will go to the school board for final approval. The school board policy addresses the renaming of our schools' facilities.
Thank you. We hope that some of those frequently asked questions address some of your questions, but we want to give you an opportunity to ask questions. Mr. Tuen is going to time for 10 minutes, so we have 4 areas that we're opening up for questions. You will also have 2 minutes to share your information. Mr. Burke will be timing that. He will hold up a yellow sign after 1 minute and a red sign when it's time to end. We found out last night no one really spoke for 2 minutes, but you have 2 minutes if you'd like to. So our first area for questions, any questions over 1 high school in Hotchkiss, a K-8 in Paonia, a K-8 in Hotchkiss, and NIFSIS remains a K-6. Now, Mr. Marty Rover has the mic. Raise your hand, and we're going to make Marty get some steps in today.
What's the financial rationale or space rationale for keeping NIFS? It's already a school within a school, for just keeping it in another building. It seems like that'd be kind of an expensive proposition to continue to operate a separate building. If, I mean, is there just not room or?
To have both schools, if we go to the K-8 model and we put them together at Paonia Junior Senior High, it makes it very compact, and we're trying to add additional opportunities. And by keeping them at their current place, the rooms are already the way they like those rooms, and we're able to close a portion of the Paonia Elementary building and get rid of the energy tech. And they're different pedagogy, different philosophy. The School of Integrated Studies is a Waldorf-inspired school, and our Paonia K-6 right now is more the traditional standards-based. The NIFSIS is standard-based as well. It just is the Waldorf-inspired. So completely different. And it is hard to have 2 schools with different philosophies under the same roof. And so we want to honor and celebrate both of those schools. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathy. So under this model with the high school here in Hotchkiss, are you open to using more of these local facilities that are here, say the rec district, the pool, soccer fields, baseball fields, and also more with the nature connection to add to curriculum for the students? Is that within the budget? I mean, is that something you've thought about, since most of these facilities here are Delta County owned and operated?
That's a great question, and yes, we are. A huge benefit is it does have the nature connection on this property. We own those buildings. Currently, the high school, Hotchkiss High, they use the bikes this year. They do some interesting things. You know, the fields, we feel we have a very good relationship with the rec district, with the county. I think there's multiple opportunities that currently are going on, can continue, and also prosper in the future. Yes.
Ki- sorry.
You can call me Karen.
I'm Kenna Price, sorry. On the bus route map, the blue one that's up there on Redlands Mesa, you said they'd get on the bus at roughly 6:20 if they were going to Paonia Junior Senior High. How long would their ride be if they switched and went to Cedar Ridge or Delta?
You know, I haven't mapped that out, to be honest. We don't have a bus route that, what's that? We don't have a bus route that comes up there in Redlands from Cedar Ridge currently, because that big road that's kind of windy and crazy in between the two. So we don't bring buses this way at this point.
Okay, well, would they be closer? Because it seems like they'd be like that's
Mile-
a danger.
Mileage wise, it probably would be as close for
And
sure.
then I also have some letters that I'm going to take down to the board because the 7th grade, who are awesome, have written you their opinion in very
Perfect.
polite letters.
Okay.
I would agree. And, you know, Kenna invited us into her 8th grade class, and we had an opportunity to go talk to the kids. And I got to tell you, the kids here are wonderful throughout our district. We're very blessed to be where we are. I also want to thank Kenna, and she reminded me, when you ask a question, if you don't mind, if you'd introduce yourself as well. So anyone else?
Hi, my name's Becky Ela. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I've lived here since 1996. I've had 2 kids who've gone to Montessori on the K-8 and here at Hotchkiss High School. So my question is kind of twofold. The first is the timing during the pandemic is unfortunate. I've heard no mention at all about how you're going to maintain student safety, teacher safety, and the safety of multiple kids who are living with their elderly grandparents across this big geographic area. So that's one concern. My second concern mostly is for the current high school students who will be having to, as you say, adapt 2 cultures in one school. So you're taking high school freshmen, sophomores, and juniors who've had an inordinate burden of managing schools, not school, online, not online, and particularly for the juniors, and you're not going to say, oh, and you're going to lose your homeschool. From a mental health standpoint, I can't express how appalling that is. Like my voice is cracking. So how are you going to address that in the schools?
Thank you for that question. And I do want you to know health and safety is of the utmost important for us. And we've spent a lot of time this year on our procedures and protocols. We have Delta High School with 650 kids. We have 2 elementaries in Delta with over 550 each. So we will continue to implement our procedures and protocols to help everyone continue to be safe, because that's very important. And I will say it's been rough last year, you know, when COVID hit. I want to thank and honor all the kids and the staff for doing what they need to stay safe and healthy. As far as building school culture, we know that's going to be one of the first things that we need to tackle. And how do we get students to come together and work together? And we've been talking about a lot of ideas. Also, staff members, we'll have some staff from Cedar Ridge and Hotchkiss, regardless of which community and which level of school, because it's not only a high school, it's a system change of pre-K-8. I don't think there's ever a good time to do this. This is a very tough topic, but I want you to know that anything we do, we want to make it better for kids and better for staff. And so a lot of work will be going in. I have a district student advisory council, and on that committee, I had students volunteering to want to be on committees to lead in helping to build the culture. Students have great ideas, and we need to utilize our student resources to help us guide this process. And I hope we look at it as an opportunity, because it really can be an opportunity if we take that look. But we do want to remember that safety is of the utmost importance. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Ben Rodriguez. I'm a junior at Hotchkiss. I had a couple of questions. First one, we have facilities like the weight room. They're already maxed out. I couldn't even get a class last year. I'm a 3-sport athlete. So are we going to invest any money into expanding those facilities to incorporate larger classes?
So Ben, I don't know if I heard you. So you tried to get into a weight class and you couldn't? How come you couldn't get into a weight class?
It was maxed out. It was maxed out. There weren't enough
Okay.
students and there wasn't enough room.
And that's a great question. And one of the reasons that we do want to increase, we want there to be weights offered all day. So if it doesn't fit that hour, you can take it another hour. And that makes me sad that you couldn't get in that class. So if we're able to offer weights or PE or art or, you know, Spanish more times during the day, that helps you so you can take the advantage of that. So really, I think by having more students and more classes, so weights is offered a few more times, you can take that class. That'd be good.
I don't think you understand.
I guess I don't, yes.
Weights is offered, like, I don't know if it's offered, it's almost every hour.
Uh-huh.
The classes are all maxed out. It's like our facilities are maxed out as is. I had multiple hours, which I tried to take weights.
Okay.
And they couldn't fit me in any of them.
Yeah. Ben, it's a great question. I thought we checked, is weights only offered 3 times a day?
4.
4, yes. So maybe it can be offered 6 times a day. And I hear you. And we can work with teachers on how to continue to offer those opportunities in class. So we're not perfect. We'll work through those things. But maybe we can try to offer those 6 times a day instead of just the 4 times.
So I had a question considering the rebranding. So you guys are totally willing to rebrand the whole school as long as our new basketball court, which the way I understand it, we put it in this year and we would lose about 15. So you have about 50 years on a court, about 3 standings. So if you sand off that court, that takes 15 years off of it, plus another 30 grand on top of it to do that. So you guys are willing to do that, repaint the whole school considering what mascot and colors we are, take down the metal gates outside, and be able to redo the mascot and everything like t-shirts, shirt staff, apparel, and all that. You guys are willing to put all that money up front. So I'm wondering, why would you guys do that for so many more schools if the high school in Hotchkiss, you only had 3 schools and you'd only have to rebrand 1 instead of so many others?
Okay, yes. So we're going to dive a little deeper into that when we get to the rebranding question, but we see a lot of that as a one-time cost where we would save money year after year after year. And it is a big undertaking. We get that to rebrand and do that. We've already talked to the people that put your floor in. They already got a plan of how that can be changed, or the Hotchkiss floor, that can all be changed. And that falls in with those one-time costs. So we're going to address your question a little more as we get to the branding phase, because that was the end of this section. We are now going to spend 10 minutes on the second question. 1 high school in Paonia, 1 middle school in Hotchkiss, a K-5 in Paonia, a K-5 in Hotchkiss, and a K-5 at Nifsis.
Can you please tell me why you're considering Paonia High School as the actual high school if we combined it? Because I don't see how it outweighs Hotchkiss in the facilities and the resources we have down here.
Right. So one reason that would be considered is it's a larger school than this school, and it would have 4 grades in it, where the middle school would only have 3 grades. So we'd want to put our largest population in the largest high school, and that's a driving factor in there, is just the number of kids that would be in the school. Oh, and 2 gyms, board member told me, yes. You're correct. So either one of our, yes. So either one of our buildings, they were built to handle 350 kids. So that high school could go in either one. But when we looked at it, if you're going to have 4 grades, the option would go there, and then 3 grades here, because it is a bigger school. And I hear you. I understand. Yes. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Greg Anglovich. I have 2 daughters here that go here in Hotchkiss, one in 7th and one in 9th. On this option, one of my biggest concerns that I would like you to kind of expand on a little bit is, we talk about you have talked about transportation and reducing transportation, but I think the only reduction of that is for staff. It's not reducing it for parents, and it's not reducing it for children. These highways, Highway 133 and Highway 92, are not your safest highways. We're going to put a lot of high school students on those highways back and forth every day. That's a big concern that I really think you guys should think through deeply. We don't want to see some type of fatality accident with some high school students. By doing this option, we're also putting middle school kids back and forth on the roads, which is a burden on parents trying to pick them up from practice, get them to morning practice and after school practice. So I think this is really kind of compounding a lot of community problems by sending students in opposite directions. So I think transportation on this option is detrimental.
Yeah, and that is a fact. There's more people on the road with this option. We would hope that people would choose to ride the school buses, but good information, and thank you for sharing.
Hi, I'm Christy Hawk. I've had 4 kids go through Hotchkiss High School. My husband and I graduated from Paunia 1980, and Mr. Farmer. And so my husband went to school in Crawford. My 4 kids went to school in Crawford. He was bused to Paunia. He graduated in 79. We've had this discussion at the kitchen table number of times. When our kids came from Crawford, they came to Hotchkiss, but it was my responsibility, my husband and I, as parents, to make sure that the transition from Crawford to Hotchkiss, that they didn't feel like the new kid on the block. So during those times, we had the kids with the Hotchkiss kids doing AAU basketball, baseball, whatever we could to integrate those kids with the kids from here. My husband will tell you he was always a Crawford kid at Paunia. I've asked my son that lives right up the road from here. He said, I never felt that I was the kid from Crawford when I came to Hotchkiss. But I think it was our responsibility to make sure that didn't happen. And I think as a community, this is going to happen. And as a community, we need to step up and say, what can we do? I have grandkids coming through now. My kids are gone, but I still have a love for this school. And I want to make sure that I am available to say, what can I do to make this happen and make it comfortable for everybody? I don't think the parents, I think the parents have a problem with it. I don't think the kids will. And I know it's going to take time, and it may take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But I think as a community, we need to step up and say, what can we do to help this transition, because it's going to happen. I don't like change. never have, but it's coming. And I want to be part of that. And I think as a community, we need to be part of that. And I commend you. This is not an easy decision. I'm sure you've had sleepless nights with it. And I commend you for having the guts enough to stand up and do it for the kids.
I would like to thank you for that comment. It's nice and it's not easy at all. And seeing the kids here is really wonderful. And I know it tears at your heartstrings. Long term, this can be a wonderful thing with, you're going to go on and do great things because we set you up for that. That's our hope and dream. Thank you for that. Yes.
So last night, I was at the meeting in Paonia also, and this wasn't discussed, but what is paid out annually right now by Paonia Junior High School to the community of Paonia for the use of their fields at Volunteer Park and the city parks? And would you continue to be using those facilities, or are you looking at, in this option, would you be, upgrading their football fields? And then also last night it was brought up about changing for the younger grades, you'd have to add playgrounds and some of the safety issues with that. Can you let us know, have
You
you
bet.
addressed that?
Thank you. So in Paonia, we do pay for the use of the baseball field. We do pay and work with the town of Paonia on the town park for the football. So we do pay, and every organization has been wonderful in that. You are correct. Here at Hotchkiss, you have that football field, that track. You have the gym. They have gyms. But they don't have that long term. I think if the high school is up there, we would most certainly want to look at that. But also, so Mesa County School District play a lot of their games, their football games at Stoker Stadium. I've been to high school games at CMU Gym. So it might have to be a collaborative effort to utilize the resources here in the North Fork. And long term, every year we're looking at facilities and determining. We don't have plans to put, a baseball field on the school up there. That would have to be a discussion. So as far as if we move Paonia K5 into a K8 at Paonia Junior Senior High, we would have to at least one of those hallways take lockers out, put bulletin boards up, and really make it feel like an elementary. We would have to put the little potties in part of that school. So there will be some cost to that renovation, and that's all within that $650,000 that we put together. Did I hit all of your points? It's a possibility, yes, because you have a football field here, you have the lights and so forth, and it could be, yes. Yeah. So it would probably just be the games here, just like in Mesa County, how they play their high school games at Stoker Stadium. So currently in Paonia, they practice track and then they come down a few nights a week and practice here all together. So that can all be worked out if it goes that way. But good questions. Last question.
Hi, I'm Lottie Hollenbeek, and I'm kind of going off of what Mr. Englovich said. I am a daughter of two full-time parents my dad's a teacher here at Hotchkiss High School, and I've been held responsible for transporting my little brother and brothers, and it won't be worth my time, money, and safety to go to Paonia when I live practically as far away as to go to Cedar Ridge, and the roads are a lot safer. So I don't see, I guess, I don't understand why the high school would be there, but I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. So how old's your younger brother? Oh, so the 8-year-old's in elementary, 14, is he like an 8th grader? Freshman. So you would be caught between 2 schools. If they were a little younger, you could be caught between 3 schools. And that has been something some parents have shared, that they really a con to that, the scenario with having a high school in one community and a middle school is if they had 3 kids and they're in all 3 levels, that would be hard. And that has been brought up. So that is something that we're cautious of. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So where do you live? So you live on Orchard, in which? Rogers. You know, with these masks, it kind of, yeah, so, okay. How long does it take you to get to school currently? About 15 minutes, okay, yeah. Okay, thank you for sharing, yes. So our next topic that will be open for 10 minutes is transportation. And Mr. Clay is our transportation director. So I'm gonna let you share in the questions.
Any questions about transportation? If there are none, it's better. Okay.
Thank you. I'm Michelle Pagone. I guess my big question with transportation is, has it been discussed with CDOT at all? My son is just going to start getting his license next year, so I know as a parent, my biggest fear, I've traveled that road, and what precautions have you taken as far as CDOT or anybody else with revenue to revamp the road, or has any of that even been discussed?
So a year ago, we did talk to CDOT about that, and obviously CDOT has plans for all those highways that don't have the shoulders to expand that. They don't have a date or a time for us. That's just being totally honest with you. We know that transportation on that road, but we have parents, we have teachers, we have students right now going on that road every day as well. When you looked at that bus map, we have buses, we have a lot of kids that come to Hotchkiss about from Midway on down. So transportation is always going to be an issue as long, and even those kids clear out at Redlands, it's a transportation piece. Lottie was just talking about that being 15 minutes out there. So yes, centrally location, transportation is an issue in the North Fork, and we are well aware of that and agree with you.
My name's Tammy. I have a question for you. Have you thought about the people that live on Redlands and the impact to Delta and Cedar Ridge? Because I've heard a lot from the parents up there that they would rather go to Cedar Ridge or Delta than drive clear to Paonia. So there'll be an impact on the other schools.
Absolutely, and we have talked about that at the leadership level as well as the board level, and that is a real issue, and that is part of that conversation about where that high school has to be. Just like the time on the bus has to be a part of that conversation as well. Point well taken, and we agree with you.
Hello, my name's John Hickam. I have some parents I have some kids in the district. I think one of the important things with transportation is to keep some perspective here. I work with education data for a living, and I went and I pulled a spreadsheet from the National Center of Education Statistics, that's nces.ed.gov, that has every school in the United States in it, and I looked for 8 hours and could not find any examples of traditional high schools with less than 200 students that are only 15, 20 minutes apart from each other in the Western United States that are part of the same district. So this is something that needs to be figured out. It's something that needs to be worked out, but it's also kind of like the norm for how we fund education in this country is that, schools that are 15 minutes apart end up as one sooner or later.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to, if anyone wants those statistics or, my database or any of that stuff, I'd be happy to share it, all the GIS stuff and everything.
Thank you, John.
It's me again. I was trying really hard to only comment once. But I just wanted to point out, when we're talking transportation, one of the things that actually my seventh graders pointed out to me was that the Paonia Junior Senior High is on Highway 133. And if you go here, for a lot of, they like to say, we don't want kids on that road. And I pointed out that Paonia kids being on that road is just as bad as Hotchkiss kids being on that road.
Yes.
We do love all students.
Yeah.
But they pointed out that because of where this is, there's at least a higher chance that the kids will take the back road. And if they run off the road on the back road, probably they have to repair a fence. Hopefully we don't have to have a funeral. And I just think that's a really important part of the transportation conversation.
Thank you.
You guys mentioned that transportation would become easier on teachers because, you know, we have two moving right now. But how would that work for the rest of the teachers who are already, you know, located in one community and all have to go to the other?
Yeah, good question. So the big thing is, though, that when we work like with our jobs or teachers' jobs, you know, they come in and they're there at 7:30 in the morning and then they stay there all day. So they're not having to transfer between two buildings. And so when we have to transfer teachers between, we lose a lot of teaching time with those teachers and they lose planning time and so on and so forth. So you're right. I mean, a teacher from Paonia coming here has to travel as well, or a teacher traveling from here to there has to travel. Absolutely. But it's not during the day. We don't lose time with students during that time. Okay.
Hey, I'm Drayden Taylor. I'm a junior, but I was just kind of like Tammy and Miss Price. I've already mentioned it, but I know plenty of other kids that live up on Redlands Mesa that go to high school here, and if we had to go to Paonia every day, it's like a 40-minute drive because from where I live on Redlands Mesa, it's about 24 minutes from here to Redlands Mesa. So at that point, it'd be closer just to go to Cedar Edge. But yeah, but at the same time, I feel like Cedar Edge would be gaining a lot of more students from Redlands Mesa, just because it's pretty much closer. But
yeah, absolutely, and I think that's a point well taken, as we said earlier, that some students would potentially take that option if the high school were in Paonia.
Do you have any, excuse me, my name's Stephanie Neff. I have two high schoolers and here and one in Crawford. Not a high schooler, obviously. Montessori Elementary. Do you have any data that shows what percentage of students are west of Hotchkiss versus what are east of like Paonia? Or I have a feeling we have the majority of the students probably west of Hotchkiss, but I just wanted to ask that question.
Yeah, so I don't have exact numbers for you tonight, but we have 5 bus routes that go west of Hotchkiss, and we have 1 that goes east of Paonia. The bus route that goes east of Paonia obviously goes up to Somerset, and we don't have a big population in Somerset any longer. So absolutely, more bus routes go west of Hotchkiss than east of Paonia, without a doubt. That's just a fact. Yep.
I've got one more question. It's not so much transportation. I guess I'm wondering, as we're all bringing up these points and concerns, and what is the decision point going to be? I mean, what you guys are taking information from us, you know, from these community meetings, people will show up over the next couple of days and give you more input. But what is the decision point?
So our school board and district leadership, we're doing a lot of listening. They're doing a lot of studying. They're looking, really researching what is that best option. And, you know, I showed a slide earlier with additional meetings that are coming up, and the decision is going to be made on the 25th of February of how we're going to move forward. On all the data that we're collecting and all the, you know, the data that we shared tonight, and then the data that we're collecting from people.
Thank you.
You know, and ultimately we look, and our school board's very passionate about what's best for students as we move forward. If we don't do anything, that's very hurtful as well, because we're going to have to make some reductions. So we're really looking at this as creating opportunity and not taking opportunity away. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Jess Finnegan, and I have young children here in Hotchkiss. It seems that the focus of costs has been on the high school, and I have a perception, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that the two alternative schools, the Montessori and the NISIS, drain resources from the primary schools in both towns, among energy and diversity, I would say as well. So I'm wondering why we are focused on the high school costs and not considering those two alternatives. What is the justification for that?
You bet. So we have those breakdowns for every school, and we're happy to show those to you if you want to come in. Now, the Montessori school is a school of innovation. It goes off of a different pay scale. They're reduced for that. Their teachers have agreed because they have, not contracts, but they have waivers, and they have reduced salaries that they work on, and plus they teach multi-grade levels. And then this North Fork School of Integrated Studies, we hold them very tight to our class size guidelines. So on October 1, that's called the October student count. And there's a window there, but they say it's October 1. So on that student count day, the Colorado Department of Education looks at our student count, and then we're paid that $7,890 for those students. So that October count is very important. So they don't care if it's a NIFSIS student or a Delta High student or a Hotchkiss student. We're paid the same amount for each student. And so we really try to get and want all of the students to attend Delta County School District. It helps with our funding. And so those schools follow our class size guidelines. It helped equalize across the district when we implemented those class size guidelines. So it's not that those schools are getting more, and we believe in options for kids. And the Waldorf inspired and the Montessori, they are research-based instruction. It's good instruction as well. And kids are doing very well at those schools. And they feed in to the schools here in the North Fork. Did I answer your question?
So I can give you an example of the numbers just so the myth is taken care of too. So at Paonia Elementary is combined with NIFSIS, and we utilize same secretary, some of the same PE teachers, so on and so forth. The cost per student in that building is $6,100, just so you guys all know. And I mean, that's what the cost of Paonia Elementary and NIFSIS is $6,100 per student in that building. So they are not costing us more than these schools. Okay. You're, so what you're saying is that's just a different distribution of resources. And the equitable piece of that is how can we get more resources in all of our schools? Partly in some of our Sea Ridge schools, Delta schools, wherever, we want to distribute all of those resources equitable. And it's hard. You guys are here, and it's hard to say in these schools we're paying $9,000 or $8,500 per kid, whereas in Delta, in some of our elementary schools there, it's less than $5,000 per student. That's a hard sell when they don't have some of those resources. But if that's the case, but we would reduce staff to get to that ratio. Correct. Correct. That's why,
Budget-wise, because I mean, we're still not reaching that amount, $7,890 a student. We're about $7,200. So, you know, there's, if you figure out what you guys pointed out last night, we get $10,057,640 from the state. They got $7,890 per student.
uh-huh,
1,276 students.
yeah,
With average that out, we still are left with 1,000,000.3.
right.
Excess, you're not actually spending from that.
So that's a good piece. So what did you say your number was? And I know exactly what you're doing, but what did you say your number was per average? Right. So understand, when we run the district as a whole, we have 85% of that funding, overall funding, goes to the school. There's 15% that has to go cover all the other costs as well. So 15% goes to our maintenance salaries, district office, technology, special services, all of those bus transportation people, all of those factors, that's about 15% of our overall budget. So at $7,400 per kid, we are well over that 85%. We have to get, when we're fiscally responsible, it's 15% has to go to those other costs when you're looking at a school district. So point well taken, agree with you, but that's why we have to get that down to that 85%. Okay?
Hi, I'm Jamie Mitchell, and I have Lola, an 8th grader. And so I just wanted to point out with the second option, if the school is in Paunia, we live on Rogers Mesa, there's probably 100% chance that my children will go to Delta. My husband travels to Delta every day. But my option for these kids sitting here is, what I'd like to know is, I feel like sometimes Cedar Ridge and Delta has some more opportunities. So if we combine these schools, can you tell me if Hotchkiss High School is going to offer more AP classes? I'm not talking arts and drama. I'm talking advanced college classes for these kids. And also with Mr. Rodriguez's comment, I think what he was trying to say is the weight room is full already with kids. Is that what you were trying to say? Like, what's the incentive for these kids? Are we going to maybe get them a bigger weight room? What are some of these incentives for these kids to be put through this to transfer to one school or the other?
Yeah, great question. And so I do believe we can, actually both Paonia and Hotchkiss have quite a few classes. And they have those AP classes. Here at Hotchkiss, they have concurrent classes. The thing is, they may have 3 or 4 in those classes. Some of our teachers are teaching 2 or 3 preps in the same hour. So if we're able to combine and have that class, then we might be able to have additional AP classes or more of that, engaging conversation with students. And then I don't know, Mr. Rover, did we, with the weight room because of COVID, I'm not sure, and, reducing numbers, I don't know if that was part of, why we only have so many kids in the weight room, or, I'm not sure on that piece. And I hate to pick on you,
We
but
just have a lot of kids that want to take it. Ben, you just didn't talk to the right person to get in that class. But, it's just a really popular class. It's a full weight room. We're lucky to have
Exactly.
Coach Hintz, who does a really good job. So.
because you have a very nice weight room. You have very nice facilities here. We are so proud of the gym. And like I said, that's something we've wanted to do the last few years. And kudos to Mr. Rover for getting your alumni group. And then he had a sponsor that helped. And, when he goes out and does that, we want to help and support that. So you have very nice facilities. You have a quality weight room. And so I want more kids in that weight room too.
I guess more my question is, say she's deciding for next year, which either school it is there going to be a transparency of cut and dry, not there could be possibilities of more? Or are you guys going to have a plan in action of these are the classes that you can take at Hotchkiss, or these are the ones that are offered at Delta?
So we have, and we've talked, and I shared information with our school board. We're not really sharing, how many teachers, like if we have 3 English teachers, but because between Paonia Junior Senior High, the middle school at Hotchkiss KA and the high school teachers are going to go, oh, there's only 3. Am I going to have that job? Or there's only, however many. But we've got ideas of a possible schedule. We're just waiting for the, decision to be made, and then we can move forward with that. The how it works when you have more teachers in the building, there are more opportunities for different classes. And then we work with the teacher, say an English teacher, and they have a passion to have a drama and teach drama and put on a play. They're able to do that. So a lot of it depends on staffing and what type of classes they would like to teach. I think having AP and concurrent in the same school is very powerful. And that's our plan. And the school board has shared with me, if we're going to do this, we better make sure there's additional opportunities and options. So that is something, I'm not going to stand up here and say you get it and then not come true. We will make that happen. I know I'm going to have to prove it to you, and we will. Yeah, thank you. Oh, Mr. Moore, this is the last one. Mr.
You know
Moore
what?
is
This
one
isn't
of
a
our
transportation
teachers.
question either, but since we cracked the seal on that, I was going to just roll with it. Real quick, I just want to circle back to the NIFSIS idea. I want what's best for kids just as much as anybody. But Mr. Clay himself said at the end of the day, this really is a numbers game. And if we're trying to save as much as we can, are there so many kids currently enrolled at the NIFSIS program that just absolutely prevents us from combining them into that junior senior building in Paonia? It's such a phenomenal facility with 2 wings and 2 gyms. I just don't understand how we could not save by eliminating the kitchen staff and custodial staff and consolidate admin. And I hate to just squeeze them all in. I know they're different philosophies, but when else would they meet other than maybe lunchtime, it seems like? And that would be a tremendous savings that, in my estimation, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Mr. Moore, thank you. Guess which school percentage-wise had the most growth in Delta County School District this year? North Fork School of Integrated Studies. There is a push here in the North Fork for alternative education, and it will cover the costs of that building. Again, we will close half of that Paonia Elementary building if it goes that way, but parents are asking for that type of alternative education along with the Montessori, and this area seems to be asking for that. So the question is, yes, it does cover its costs. There's right at 81. Yep. So we're going to go to our last area of rebranding, and I want to give the young man, this is going to sound funny, with the red sweatshirt that asked the question about rebranding, and make sure we answered your question. Did we answer your question earlier in full? Because I know I said, wait till we get to the rebranding section. And you can think about it and ask us a little later. I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, so along with all the jerseys and everything, I mean, I was going over it with my football coach. And so everyone's set up to get all these new jerseys. And up front, we're throwing away like $80,000 worth of jerseys just in the first year and replacing all of those, even though we just bought new ones. But along those lines, so if the high school were to be in Paonia, so you're saying we already pay the other facilities to have the football field and the baseball field, but yet how much would it cost to implement those to have a regulation football field? How much work would have to go into that to cut out those costs? Because if we are talking about it long term, we would have to put those in to save a lot of money. And we already have those here, even though the baseball field is at K8, that's still school property. And we already have the football field. As we mentioned before, the kids from Paonia come over to use our track, which obviously it sucks for them, because imagine those long practices and then having going to all the way back to Paonia, when instead they could just be here and use those facilities and go straight home. And another thing, our track already has Hotchkiss High School on it. Are we going to pay another? I remember at my old high school, they got a new track is about almost $1 million to do that. So are we going to put that into that too, rebranding that whole thing?
So you have a lot of good information, and that's what we're trying to research and look at. We do feel very strongly that we do need to rebrand whichever place the high school goes. If the high school is here, we want the Paonia students to feel very welcome. We want staff members that would come here to feel very welcome. You are all students of Delta County School District. We care about all of you, and I hear that many of you are friends as well. So it's very important that we have a welcoming environment, and we feel the best way for that to happen is to rebrand the school. Yes, we'd have to paint over your track, your Hotchkiss on your track, and so forth. And we want all kids to feel welcome and that this is their school in either location.
They came over here for a reason, to be part of this community and be a part of what we built here, not what they left back there.
So you have a very good point. Let me ask you a question. Are you okay with going into Paonia, just like you're saying they can just come here? Okay.
You mentioned it already. They play football together and all that. So would a couple of years for us be an eagle for a year? Would that really count for all those costs of having to do everything? Even if those kids are getting themselves as one unit and they would not care if they were at another.
So you know what? You have some great points, and I don't want to argue with you. I honor you and love you as a student here, and we will just continue to look at all this information and facts. And you're a smart young man, and I appreciate your question. So thank you.
So what does it look like with Paonia? Because I know personally, sitting at this table, 3 kids who have transferred from Paonia to Hotchkiss because of the atmosphere. Kids love it here. There's a reason why kids are leaving Paonia. Even in our K through 8th, I mean, where's your numbers at to look at that? That should be put in perspective. And then to shove these kids back into a high school they left on purpose because of an experience they had educationally or with the kids. How are you planning on having these kids do that? Because you guys are going to lose a lot of kids to Cedar Ridge because they are refusing to go back to Paonia.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. And we don't want to lose any kids from any school. And just like they love Hotchkiss, our Paonia students love Paonia. And I think kids, currently need to find the best fit for them. And as we move forward, we will have a lot of culture building and teamwork. A lot of students date each other from different schools and so many things. We want to build a culture of caring, a culture of kindness, and let's take care of each other. And it's going to take a lot of work. I know it will. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
My name's Cindy Hintz. You've spent a lot of time talking about being fiscally responsible. When you talk about rebranding the floor that you just accepted community donations for, or replacing uniforms that have been worn for a 5 or 6 week season, it really seems like we're being incredibly fiscally irresponsible. I appreciate that you want to make those students feel welcome, but it's at the expense of our community. Hey, thank you for that $500 donation. We threw it away on a uniform that got worn for 20 games.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Like I said, I don't know if there is ever a good time to do this. And if our enrollment hadn't plummeted and where we are, there comes a time where we have to look at everything and make a decision. And with the uniforms, because of that, as a district, we're willing to take that expense on. And so that takes that burden off of the alumni group or the booster club for that first year. You have a very strong booster club and alumni group here. But you know what? Whether they're Paonia kids or Hotchkiss kids, they're still our kids. And we really want, to do what we believe is best over time. Is it going to be hard for a while? It is. They're still kids. They're still in our communities. And, we just have to figure out how to work together and create that culture of caring for each other.
I have a question that maybe it will help if you can answer it for the kids.
Okay.
I've had kids question me about if they're a senior next year and they letter for the first time, since they've gone to the school for 3 years, can they still have a Hotchkiss letter rather than whatever the new name is?
Right. That's a great question. And, we don't want to lose what you've already put into the school. So I think we can work with administration and staff to figure out what's best for kids as we move forward. We don't want to hurt any kid in this move or situation. And so do we have all that stuff worked out yet? No. But I think together, collectively, we can figure out how to continue to honor our athletes and our students. And I agree with you, Tammy. Thank you. Last question.
Hi, my name is Isabella Spano. Sorry for not introducing myself earlier. So I have two questions. The first question is, or I guess statement in a way, is kids aren't going to like changing schools. They're not going to like merging, and you all know that. They're not going to like changing their label, like Hotchkiss Paonia. So why can't kids just not like becoming a Hotchkiss Bulldog? Like, why can't they just get used to becoming a Hotchkiss Bulldog? You talk about doing what's best for the students, best for the community, like Sunday is saying, and it would be better just to say Hotchkiss. And then my second question is, what are you board members leaning towards? What option are you leaning towards?
Okay. So first off, I want to answer your first question. Yes. First off, I just want to ask you, are you okay with being a Paonia Eagle? Okay. 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 Thank you. And then the school board is still researching, and I don't believe, if any of you want to speak, that's fine. But at this point, they're still researching, and that's why they're here tonight. And we have one school board online. They're listening to you and seeing the reactions and everything. There has not been a decision or a vote yet. So we were hoping that they were donations, and we'll continue to work with our business communities, but I see as we move forward real opportunities that there might be more funding out there, because now you're bringing funding from 2 or even 3 communities, adding Crawford in. And so there could be like huge opportunities for funding moving forward. And yes, for a few years, it's going to be bumpy if we let it be bumpy, but what can be and how we prepare you for your future can be exciting. And I know you're not there yet to see that. And I just ask that you continue to be open-minded. And thank you for that. Yes. So that does conclude our question session. And then, so how does our community members, how do we get your thoughts? And so tomorrow we'll be at the Paonia Energy Tech in the morning, and the afternoon we'll be at Heritage Hall, and come visit with us. Again, we want to hear from you, and you're doing a great job of sharing with us tonight too. And then Tuesday the 16th, we'll have another one of these meetings in Delta at our school district office, because a lot of Delta people want to share their thoughts as well, and the Cedar Ridge. And then we have a survey at deltaschools.com, You can go in there and take that survey and put your information in those pros and cons. And then we have a survey for you tonight. So on this last one, first off, before I get to that, thank you so much for being here. We care about our communities, we care about our schools, and I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate the students here. We have some staff members here. Good input. So you can do a QR code and it takes you right to the survey, or you can go to this link and give us your feedback. We did this last night. We got good feedback, and it was sent to the school board members, and they're looking that over. So that is your voice. Share with us. And we have a county commissioner here. We have, we all care about the kids in all of our communities. Delta County School District is a great place to be. We live in a great place, and I love how you guys care about your kids. Thank you so much. Thank you.